Welcome to the dumbest smart guy podcast on the planet. This is the Central Unintelligence Podcast.
Oh, dang. I guess I can't curse still for the first minute, right? All right. So anyways, welcome back, everybody. It's been a long hiatus. It's been a long time away, but I think it's safe to say that we're back. We're back for good, at least once a week in terms of doing episodes, and there might be episodes that come out more often than that, but we'll see. If you want to hear the story, I guess you can tune into our other podcast of the BFN show, and you can listen to that. And then we'll tell you, you'll hear the story of what happened and why we were gone for so long. Anyways, as always, or as it has been, not lately, but now, it's me, Josh, here with Adam.
Yes, hello.
Good buddy, Adam. Oh, man, see, I can't, and it's been too long. I got to get back into it, all right?
Yeah.
With the, what's the word I'm looking for? The amount of time that we've been gone.
Now you can drop F-bombs.
Okay, good. Fucking finally. All right.
We're at the 1:30 mark, so we're in the clear now.
All right. So the amount of fucking time that we've been gone has been tremendous. Now, I will say, and again, it sucks that we weren't doing episodes when this was going on at the beginning of this, earlier this year, with this Venezuela thing, with the actual attacking of the whole Iran thing. I fucking literally had called everything to a T so much that a guy that I was working with at my old job literally thought I worked for the CIA. He looked at me one day and he said, "Hey, Josh, man, I'm going to ask you a question. I need you to give me like a straight up answer." And I said, okay. "Do you work for the CIA?" It's like, "No, I don't." I'm going to have to say, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm a little sus right now. Because I don't know how you knew. You know, I thought, oh, whatever, he just got lucky when he said, oh, yeah, they're going to attack them Venezuelans this weekend. And then, bam, they went and did that shit. Then you were like, oh, whatever, 6 weeks later, you're like, oh, yeah, they're going to attack Iran this weekend. And then, boom, it happened. He literally was like, man, there's something up with you, man. What is wrong with you? How do you know this shit? What else is going to happen? Tell me the secrets. And the thing is, I don't know the secrets. I don't work for the CIA. And I don't take any money for anybody, so fuck, man. I guess I'm just good at looking at past trends and seeing what happens, I guess. But anyways, this whole thing has kind of... We've done episodes on this whole situation going down previously. A year ago, over a year ago, we were doing episodes on this whole Strait of Hormuz situation. Now, the episode that we are currently doing is called the ShiP show, the Middle East ShiP show, all right? And that's obviously a pun on it's the Middle East shit show, all right? Like, but it does have to do with, you know, ships and whatnot. And that is the Strait of Hormuz closure, the current MOU, everything that's going on.
What does MOU stand for?
It's a memorandum of understanding, which is funny because it's like basically the lowest or softest legal term for like any kind of agreement. It's not even really an agreement. It's just like, all right, man, like we're gonna agree to these certain things to be the basis of us starting to begin the process of talking about potentially having an agreement.
It's a concept of a plan.
Yeah, but like a shitty version of that, I guess. Like
it's like doing lunch, setting the plans for lunch.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Hey, man, you know what? Why don't you have your people call my people, and we'll do lunch at a date later to be determined. That's basically what the MOU is. And as we've seen this entire process of how it's gone down, it's just one fucking mistake and misstep and fuckery after another. Everybody's violating the thing, even though, I mean, let's be honest, this doesn't even really mean anything. I personally always thought that this was just an off-ramp plan to try and buy, well, at least us some time to rearm and re-outfit and reload. Also, I mean, Trump did kind of say it at the G7 summit earlier last week that we're like 4 weeks away from fucking tank bottoms on the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, which, man, fuck, man. Sometimes, like, you want to think that, oh yeah, this is like some 5D chess move. This is some Art of War shit. No, man, this motherfucker's just stupid. Like, why would you tell anybody that? The Strategic Petroleum Reserve is not private information. It's public information. You can literally Google the shit. I have it right here. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve, the whole shit they've done in 2026. January, wow, net movement, it gained 1.7 million barrels. In February, we gained 0.2, so 200,000. And then in March, it started to happen. We started to draw down on it. So in March, we started drawing down a little under 500,000 barrels of oil. April went to 20.3. May went to 39 almost 40 million barrels for the month. And right now in June, as of this, I think this chart that I'm looking at was put out in the middle of last week. So as of a little over halfway through or 3/4 of the way through June, we're at 29.7 million barrels that we've drawn out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Now, the total that we had in there was only 325 million to begin with, or what we're currently at right now. And the fucking crazy part is one of the things that a lot of people aren't really taking into account is the fact that our oil refineries here in America are primarily outfitted for the processing of sour crude, which is like the shit that comes out of the Middle East, the shit that comes out of like Venezuela, those areas. Here in the United States, when we popped our shale revolution back in the early 2000s and unlocked being able to pull more oil through fracking and all this other shit, we started pulling exclusively sweet crude, which we don't really process here. This is the reason why we're a net exporter, is because we import most of the oil that we actually turn and refine into the fuels, into diesel, jet fuel, regular unleaded gasoline. We import most of that shit. The exporting that we do is offset tremendously by the amount of oil we pull out of the ground. So in our reserves right now, we only have 205 million barrels left, essentially, as of like last week. And if you look at kind of the trend on average, you're looking at it's averaging 30 barrels a month, or 30 million barrels a month that we're pulling out. So if you divide that by 4, rough number, you get 7 times 4 is 28, right? So you're roughly looking at, you're roughly looking at like 7 to 9 million barrels of oil a week that we're pulling out. And so if you round that 200 million that are left in there, you divide that by 7, and I don't know the math because I'm an idiot, but you got fucking, if that's per week that we're drawing down, that's 28 weeks of oil that we have left. Now, that's a lot. That's not a lot when you look at what is in the reserve of what we've really been pulling. This is, like I said, the publicized number, and there's a lot of people that are saying that this number's not right, that this total number is a lot lower than what they are putting out. Now, who knows if that's true, but...
So, what would you say about this number already being public information and public statements being made by government officials? Well, I guess specifically the president making comments about, lower oil reserves. Do you think that's something of a concession by our own president to say something like that? Is it like a little bit of a tipping of the hand to say something like that?
Yeah. I think I think it's a tipping of the fucking hand. I think that's the real reason why we're pushing for this like MOU, or we're pushing for some kind of peace or some sort of reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, because we're missing like several billion barrels of oil that haven't come out of there over the last 110 days now it's been since this happened in early or late February, February 27th, 28th, depending on the fucking international dateline of where you were at when this actually happened. So as of late February, we're billions of barrels in the hole that haven't been coming out to be processed.
And what has happened to those tankers that have just been stranded otherwise? Like, is that something that Iran seizes, or they're just out in the open and never to be reclaimed? And, you know, the people that insured those tankers.
Yeah, so right now,
what happens with that
the
shit?
ones that have been stuck in the Gulf of Oman and like in the Strait or whatever, they've just been sitting there. They've just been sitting idle, and they're having supplies flown to them. I do believe some of those tankers have the ability to process some oil on board into their diesel fuel that they use to run the shit. So I think that's how they're kind of like staying supplied in terms of like being able to just sit idle essentially. But they're having to have like fucking supplies flown in. I mean, like food and stuff. There's guys that have been trapped on those ships for 4 months, you know, and they're just chilling. So the fact is that at this rate, we're essentially we're heading towards those tank bottoms. And I'm sorry, I fucked up the numbers earlier. The amount that we're pulling out is equal to that, but we actually use the supply that we're using. That's 28 days. It's 28 weeks if we were to only do the same amount that we're doing now. But when the supplies run out of usable oil, which that's where we're looking at that 4 weeks mark. That's what we have left in there. We have 4 weeks left when the shit is at zero. When the only thing supplying oil to the oil market is like the Strategic Petroleum Reserve here, because people are running out of shit. Those ships that have been coming out, that haven't been coming out, that have been stuck, that oil is not getting put into the system. And what's crazy is the goddamn fucking market manipulation that they've been doing with the fucking oil markets. And the scary thing is it all fucking ties into China. All right. I know I always say that shit. All right. It always ties into China, blah, 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 but it's true. These motherfuckers have got their finger on this. And for some reason, the Chinese have like dialed back the demand. They've converted a lot of their stuff over to wind and solar power and nuclear. So their ability to turn off their need and to fluctuate their need for oil, that's the only reason why oil is not $150 a barrel, is because we've been pumping a bunch of oil in and the Chinese have stricken their demand. So because all the available rest of the oil in the world is going to Europe, the Southeast Asia, and to us, now we're in this position where, why have the Chinese been doing this? They ain't been doing it to help us out, I can tell you that for sure. So there's a reason behind it. Now, what it is, I don't know. The Chinese like to play the long game. They're not doing it to buy goodwill with anybody. I think they're doing it because it's requiring us to draw down more reserves because we're giving it to ourselves. Yeah, I think that's what it is.
I think it could serve two functions. It was just they were preparing for this future anyways, to switching to alternative energies, and it was just a two birds with one stone situation that this whole Strait of Hormuz thing is just it's being costly to everybody else, with the exception of China, who's been pivoting to renewable energies.
Right, yeah. And when you look at the whole situation with the Strait of Hormuz, the MOU, you've got this other deal between Lebanon and Israel. And that's the thing. The MOU was doomed from the start because you can't have a fucking requirement of a party that's not like signing on to the agreement, right? The Iranians want Lebanon to be completely free of Israeli occupation, which, okay. Iran is turning out to be, as we talked about before in many episodes, with this kind of proxy war between us and the Chinese and the Russians, really. Iran is the proxy in the Middle East, and they're now becoming, we want Israel to be the hegemon in the local region, and they want Iran to be the local hegemon in the region. And now it's sort of turning out that Iran actually had the power to be the local dog, big dog all along, because they're executing this control over the strait, which they don't even need to actually have the capability to do it. All you got to do is hit one ship, and that's over. Now you've got the insurance companies don't want to send anything in there. And if their insurance companies aren't willing to insure these things, then these ships don't move. That's just how it works. So really, I mean, Iran did quote unquote shut the Strait of Hormuz down, but realistically, it's the insurance companies that are actually the ones doing this. But Iran figured out they've got a weapon that's shit. We don't need no nuclear weapons. We got this motherfucking Strait of Hormuz thing. We can just shut this down, and now you're all fucking begging us for a deal because what's going to happen when we run out of fucking oil?
What do you think is like the financial situation overall between, well, just like in the whole world, right? There's profit to be made off war, or do you think it's become such a disastrous situation that everybody's, I mean, obviously everybody's feeling the pain, but there's got to be parties involved that are seeing money, I suppose. Like, I guess in the U.S. it'd probably be defense companies possibly manufacturing weapons and stuff. They probably have money coming towards them. For those that are trading in oil, it would be those that have been monitoring the situation, like bought in when, like, obviously this would be the time to buy in right now at this moment because gas is selling for at least $4.79 here in Southern California.
Yeah, it's cheaper than it was.
So then this would be the time to buy in, and then once the scuffle continues to blow up again, then the oil prices rise, and that would be the time to sell off, I guess. So do you think this has been more disastrous for the entire world, or do you think it's been something of both situations, that people have been profiting off this war or regional conflict while also simultaneously being disastrous for like the entire world itself?
The reason I think it's been disastrous for the whole world is because of the petrodollar. And we required everyone to be essentially trading in the petrodollar, which is just the US dollar being the exclusive currency that's traded for oil. So because it's backed and all kind of by that, everyone's been tied into the system because we've been insuring. That was part of the scam. We insured your, the freedom of navigation amongst the seas, and you just had to trade in fucking dollars. That was it. Like it was a smart move. But now that we're having this problem, now it's affecting everybody. And now what are they doing in order to get away from that exposure? Is they're dumping dollars and they're going to the next best thing, which the Iranians have been collecting their tolls in either Chinese yuan, their local Iranian currency, or crypto. And so you got those three things that are now, people are moving away, countries are moving away from the dollar and they're going to those things. Now, BRICS, this is all part of that plan from what we've talked about before, this is how you take on the global hegemony. Is you got to do it economically, and you have to do it. Yes, there is going to be a military component to this, and we're seeing it play out. I mean, I do think that they're going to look back in the history books, and World War III's already started. It started when the Russians invaded fucking Ukraine. That was the beginning of it. That was like Hitler invading Poland in 1939. And then we really didn't jump in till 3-4 years later, right? Well, now this has been a slower burn, but now here, okay, 4 years later from that, now we're embroiled in some proxy war in the Middle East that's never probably going to end now. And if you look at war, it's big money. War is racket, right? I think Eisenhower's the one that said that shit in his exiting address as president, saying to beware of the fucking military industrial complex, because he got to see both sides of it. He was the top dog in fucking World War II, and then he became president. So he's seen it from the military side of how that works with war, and he's seen it in the aftermath with being the president on the civilian side. And we have a current president in office right now who fucking makes money on this shit. Slightly unrelated, but like just to show the level of involvement with like the contracts and stuff. I think it's Action, AXION. They make the body cams and shit or whatever. And then they make these tasers now or something like that have like the body cams like built into the taser or some shit. And so Trump just invested $5 million in that company, like right before it was announced that they got a $280 million contract to provide these tasers for the Border Patrol or whatever.
And as president, you can't be personally investing into companies.
Well, so like as president, this is where like it's like that's the loophole kind of is like I mean you can, but who's going to do anything? Like you can't. It's technically illegal, but if Congress isn't going to do anything to you, that's the only one that can go after you. So if they're not going to do anything, then what's the fucking difference? You know. So I think that this is going to make a shit ton of money for the people that are in power. It's likely going to be, I think, the downfall of our dominance. I think that this war has sort of shown, and it sucks to say it, but like we lost. Like we definitely lost. We didn't lose militarily. We lost strategically because militarily, yeah, we beat their ass, but their objective, all they had to do was survive. The regime in some form had to fucking survive, and we had to fucking topple it. And when the regime sort of still exists as it was previously, yeah, there's a lot of dudes that aren't in charge that are dead, but those guys got replaced by dudes that are almost worse. So now if you look at that, okay, the regime is still there. They're more hardlined. We failed the objective, which was to remove them. So now our military way of doing things doesn't work anymore. It's kind of proven that like you can't just bomb people and send aircraft carriers and just take shit by force. Because this is the other thing. If we had the true ability to take the Strait of Hormuz by force, we would have done it already. If we had that ability that was just for sure, we knew we could do it and there would be minimal casualties, we would have did that. That would have been the first fucking thing we did. But the problem is, we don't have the military capability to do it and not suffer a lot of fucking casualties. And that's something that at the beginning they weren't willing to risk. Now as we get closer into this thing starting to fucking collapse, it looks like maybe I feel like they might try to do it. It might say fuck it, and who knows what the fuck's gonna happen. I think the MOU's fucking, it was a 60-day fucking, they wanted at least 30 to 60 days to be able to rearm. I think that's what both sides wanted. Iran wanted to make more drones and more fucking ballistic missiles. And who knows, possibly maybe even get themselves a nuke. I mean, that's on the table, I feel like. I feel like us going after them now, this is more reason than ever for any country to just be like, hey, we need to get a nuke now, because look what happened to North Korea. North Korea came out, said they had the nuke. Nobody fucks with them.
And you never really hear about them all that much anyways. Like as of like the last 10 years, every so often you hear about like a meeting with Vladimir Putin or something like that. But otherwise, they got the nuke and everybody stays out of their fucking way, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of where, yeah, I think that we gave everybody a reason now that doesn't have a nuke to try to get one, because the one way that Iran could get out of this is just to say, well, I mean, if we have the nuke, now you guys got really no choice but to negotiate with us, because we could just nuke everybody. And then that's bad for everybody. So
what do you think about the landscape of warfare changing just with Ukraine and Russia conflict there, and also perhaps the parallel between the US and Iran? Because I think both sides that are, I guess, the victims in this situation, both Iran and Ukraine, have found cheaper ways to be effective with drone warfare and stuff, and perhaps, I guess, to some degree, change the face of how things are done, as we are quickly finding out, like using expensive hardware, if it's like Patriot missile systems and all that stuff. It's like, why pour millions of dollars into missiles and all this shit when you can just make a drone for who the fuck knows how many dollars? Let's say $1,000. You attach like an IED to it and you just send it. You find the target, explode people, and you know, it's done and over with. It's a one-time use thing. It's made warfare probably cheaper, if anything. But what do you got to say about that? Yeah,
I think that this is kind of what we're witnessing, the disparity of like between World War I and World War II technology. Like the old way of doing things that we have never shifted from, which is like kind of the Cold War dominance and power, and kind of the way that we, dominated 50 years ago, that shit's out the window. Like it's all down to this drones and this autonomous shit. And it's funny because war's almost gone backwards. I mean, there's trench warfare in the Ukraine, in that whole new area. That's kind of what this has amounted to in Iran. This is a form of trench warfare. I mean, it's just with coastlines, and I mean, we have the ability to go in and bomb them, and they can't really hit a lot of our stuff. But it's also proving that us bombing them is ineffective because they're still launching drones and still launching ballistic missiles. So if we had the ability to stop that, it would have been done by now. But this new way of warfare, this new drone autonomous stuff, that's the new way of warfare. And I think we're behind the 8 ball. I think the time of stealth bombers and fucking stealth fighters and shit, I feel like that's coming to an end. That warfare is changing, and we're still putting out top end hardware to fight a war that doesn't exist anymore. If you want to make some shit, let's make some stealth drones. Let's make some drones that can't be intercepted. Like,
that's
I don't
terrifying.
know. Yeah, it is terrifying, but that's what's next. That's the next logical progression, is drones that there's nothing you can do about them. You're just, if it's locked on a target, that target's going to be toast. And there's no defense against it. There will be, sure. I'm sure somebody will invent something that's a defense to it. But again, that's where money is made.
Yeah, I mean, they have those guns that you can shoot down. I don't know if it's like an EMP bullet or what it is.
Yeah, it's like a pulse of it's like an EMP pulse or whatever.
Yeah. Fuck, I lost my train of thought. Oh, I was gonna say that. Man, what are the odds? I don't even want to say, because if I speak it into existence, it's probably going to happen. But what if we start getting mini nuclear bombs on drones at some point, and we just instead of trying to irradiate an entire country, you just do it in key points, like processing plants for like oil or fucking water, and you don't really need to do that much damage. It just has to be on specific locations so that people die, or it just makes their resources less accessible. Something like that. Yeah. No, I mean, that's the next step that's going to happen probably in this Middle East conflict, is they're going to be blowing up infrastructure, desalination plants, oil processing plants. That's the thing that's been threatened. And that's what's next. I also wouldn't put it past, because Israel's now doing kind of what they want to do. There's this like disengaging of our, I guess, interests with us and them. So now they're pursuing other shit. I just think that the possibility that they may just say, you know what, fuck it, we're just going to launch a nuke. I think that's plausible. I think that's on the table, especially with their election coming up, and then the fact that, well, what's going to happen? I mean, we're having an election too come up, and theirs is in October. Ours is going to be in November. What's to say that there isn't going to be some kind of quote unquote terrorist attack that happens? They need to drum up support for this shit so they can make a bunch of money. So I would just say that this MOU ain't going to fucking last. This whole thing's going to fall apart. It's starting to fall apart. As of today, they're like basically saying that no further talks are scheduled at this time. So that kind of tells me, well, now we've been taking shots at each other again. I think we were just kind of testing to see, like, let's see what they got. Okay, all right, maybe we need to put some more shit in there. Maybe we'll wait another week or two, and then we're going to hit right back to it. This is going to be right back to bullshit. So, do you think, well, as of late, it seems like one of two things, as far as U.S. interest goes, to overtake the president of Venezuela and have him taken into U.S. custody. What do you think the motivation was for that? To seize oil operations? I think that's probably the most evident thing.
It was. I think it was more so to, if you want my real honest opinion, it was. I think this was part. I think Israel did this whole thing. I think that this was part of the lead up to get Trump to be convinced that he could do this to Iran. And I think that Mossad went in there. I think the CIA went in there to Venezuela, and they were like, yo, we got all this shit. We got everything. Venezuela is an easy country to fucking infiltrate. The corruption there is like some of the highest shit on the planet. So yeah, you could get the supposedly like the dude that gave them fucking Maduro was on his security team or some shit. Like, so yeah, it's easy to buy those guys out. It's a lot harder to do that with the Iranians because of their religious component that they have, because not only are you a traitor to the country, but you're a traitor to your religious system, which is a great way to breed loyalty. I mean, you got to give them that. But I do think that the Venezuela operation was done to flex and say, look what we can do. Because, I mean, goddamn, that is impressive. I mean, that is impressive to be able to go into a sovereign country and just take their leader in his pajamas and fucking bring him back in like a matter of hours. Like, that's an impressive operation.
Yeah.
And to basically have no fucking losses. I mean, I think there was like one helicopter or like maybe something that had like a mechanical failure. I don't know. But you're basically at minimal or no losses. And that's an impressive thing to do. And if you look at the timetable of that was done in January, and then a month later we're attacking Iran in what they said would basically be, oh, this is going to be the same shit. This will be super easy. In 4 days, their country will fall. And obviously that didn't happen. So I think that the motivation for our angle was, hey, we need to deny the Chinese this strategic asset of crude oil that they are heavily getting involved in, which is what we did once we took over. And basically now we're running the show. Like Maduro was working with the Chinese government. They had several Chinese and Russian, I mean, they were rebuilding all their oil infrastructure that had dilapidated over the years from when we, Chevron and all these other companies, the American oil companies pulled out and were kicked out by the Venezuelan government. So now we said, fuck it, we're just going to go take it back. And that's what we did. Now their person who's in charge now, Delcy Rodriguez or whatever, the vice president, who's now, I believe she's now the president of Venezuela. She's like, yeah, listen, I saw what you did to fucking my boss. I'll fucking, don't worry, you guys can have everything you want. Granted, it's denying use of the future use of it, I guess, because Venezuela's not in a position to provide a whole fuck ton of oil to us. Chevron was the only company that wanted to go back in there now, and they're even kind of like saying, yeah, fuck, this is not even worth our time, because there's so much shit that needs to get fixed, and it's going to cost so much money that it's almost not worth it. And it's not worth it for a business to do. It would be worth it for a country to pay for, to use as part of their strategic reserve, their whatever, which China was getting that control because they were putting in that infrastructure, they were laying the groundwork, and Venezuela was going to pay them back in oil, essentially. So, it was kind of part of their Belt and Road Initiative. Now, we've denied that in our hemisphere. That was the main reason, I think, of why it was framed to do that. Strategically, that makes the most sense. It was also a time for us to kind of flex and say, hey, the U.S. military has been kind of seen over the last like 8 to 10 years. I mean, we've taken a lot of L's. All right, we ain't fucking doing so hot when it comes to long-term engagements, and that was a big W to let people know, hey, we still have this capability. Our regular conventional warfighting capability may not be what it was, but we just pulled off the most impressive unconventional operation probably in the history of warfare by doing that.
Do you think this is a different situation, different and similar situation? Because it seems like for the U.S., it'd be of interest to take Venezuela for the crude oil stuff, right? Obviously. But now we have this thing with Cuba. I'm thinking that one is strategic for, I guess, to take nuclear missiles off the table, off of our own coast, basically. And then Iran is somewhere in between, where it'd be, I guess, the oil and also control of the strait itself, if that's what we're getting at. But I don't know, man. I guess for me, I would be wondering if it's like because is Iran part of OPEC or
no,
it's not?
No.
I was gonna say it seems like they have been hitting oil-rich countries. And I thought, I'm like, I don't know if Cuba has any oil reserves, but for that one, it would be more of a nuclear missile placement. If they do go into Cuba, it would be that would be their motivation to go in. I don't know what's following with that, but
well, it was like the new Monroe Doctrine or whatever, Trump-Roe Doctrine is what they were calling it, which honestly was the way to go. That was the way to focus, was to, okay, let's just control our hemisphere and give no fucks about everybody else right now. We're 39 trillion some fucking dollars. I mean, probably more than that now. It just continues to go up every minute.
Yeah.
We're trillions of dollars in debt, and it's starting to weigh on our economy. And there is going to lead to some sort of crash. The problem is we're not going to have that World War II kind of like pickup like we did with this World War III in terms of the economy, because we don't make anything here anymore. And the fastest way to get shit up and going again is just robots, is AI and robots and shit. And that's what they're doing. I mean, I think GM replaced 1,000 workers in some facility with 50 robots to like make car shit or whatever, to put cars together. So this new AI robot revolution is really gonna fuck everything up too. I mean, that's a whole nother fucking episode, really. But in terms of this, I think we should have just stuck with fucking with our own hemisphere, because we could have waited on this Iran shit. You know
the Ukraine thing.
I mean, we could have waited on that too. If we would have said, hey, let's just hold off on Iran, keep the Strait open, oil still flowing, because everything was fine before this. They weren't shutting it down. There were no tolls, none of that shit. And it ain't never going to go back to that unless we fucking wipe the Iranians out, which I don't think is a doable proposition at this point.
Yeah, it's like a Hydra situation. I guess that was what I was getting at with the Venezuela thing, is that in one instance you have Venezuela, who has a leader that was, I guess, taken care of, and then with Iran, it's like you cut off one head, it doesn't really matter because the next one will crop up, and who knows, perhaps the next leader is going to be just as extreme, and we may have situations like 9/11 popping up in the near future because we agitated them when we didn't need to.
Yeah, that's what I see happening. Or we agitated someone by accident that we didn't mean to. By doing this, we've now had to agitate Israel into being like, hey, we can't finish this fucking shit, so we can't really do it. And now they're like, well, fuck America. Like, we can't do it without you, so now we got to get you back in. So maybe we do something and then, fucking make it happen.
Yeah, I wonder where that whole region was at prior to any war breaking out. But like, say Lebanon was fine. They didn't have any say or any opinion on what was happening before this, for like Iran and the U.S. directly got in conflict with one another. And then let's say Yemen, Lebanon, Jordan, or I don't know how Jordan feels about this situation, but like pretty much all the neighboring countries, right? Do you think this has only amplified their hostilities towards the U.S. Since this fucking started? And do you think perhaps, or do you wonder if before this whole thing broke out, if they already hated the U.S. and it's only been amplified, or if it's always been the same?
No, I think this has just made it worse. I mean, this just proved that we're kind of like the bully in the room here. Hey, do what we say or else. We don't want you to have nukes. And then, I mean, it also kind of showed that Israel kind of pulls our strings a little bit. Not a lot, not a little bit, a lot of it. They fucking basically call the shots. I mean, that's basically what we've learned out of all this. I mean, we kind of figured it, but now this is just, okay, it's just blatantly in our faces that they kind of just tell us what to do. And we fucking do it. And that sucks, because I don't want to go die in some Middle Eastern war that I don't give two fucks about. And I certainly wouldn't want some 18-year-old kid to have to go do that. So, fuck. That's where this is headed, though. That's where it's headed. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping it turns around and everything's peace and love. And I mean, that's what we want. Everybody wants peace and love and everything like that. But I just don't see historically, and I don't see with the current people that are making decisions, I don't see that being an option. I don't see it happening. So anyways, this one was kind of a long episode because we had a lot to catch up on and talk about. But this topic is so huge. And I mean, this goes back. Go back and listen to our other episodes that we did on the differences between Sunni and Shia Muslims, because that all plays into this shit. And a lot of the stuff that we were talking about with Iran and everybody else over there in that region, a lot of that stuff is very relevant that we talked about in that episode that we did a few years ago. Now, a lot of that stuff is all being very relevant here. And one of the things that I think is the biggest travesty of this whole deal is that essentially the president of the United States has surrounded himself with people that are not qualified to be in the positions that they're in, and they're giving him bad advice because they don't fucking know what to do.
Yeah, it's like JD There was an instance where JD Vance was meeting with Iranian officials, and he's like, "Man, why do we have to do this diplomacy shit?" They're more prone to warfare than they are talking and trying to solve things on paper and through words.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. I found that kind of funny. It was just like a statement he gave on meeting these officials and stuff. And I was like, that was kind of strange.
Yeah. And like, it just shows a complete lack of fucking expertise in the White House or anyone that's advising the White House on the Middle East. Because anyone who, I mean, listen, I'm not even a fucking expert on this shit, and I know the differences between the Sunni and Shia Muslims, and that's where this whole thing still fucking stems from, is that the way that the Iranians are religiously and ethnically, you should have known that this was never going to fucking work. A bombing campaign and then trying to convince their population to rebel against the government, that was never going to fucking work. That's not... You don't understand the culture. You don't get it. Like, and that's the problem, is that those type of experts and those people that should be giving advice to essentially the most powerful person on the planet being the president, those are the people that should be saying, hey, this is how you have to navigate this, because these motherfuckers don't think like us. They don't act like us. Yeah, sure, we may be able to fucking bully the Canadians like this, or like other white countries, or other countries that are Christian nations, or other countries that semi-think like us. We could probably bully them in this way. But the Iranians they're not like that. Like, you're not going to win doing this. You need to approach this through a different methodology.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work. And it's obvious. It doesn't work, and it's not going to work. And until we get some people around the president that are going to start actually giving him good advice and sound advice, this is going to continue. This bullshit's going to continue. We also got to get this motherfucker off Twitter. I don't know how many times I've had to say it. This motherfucker's got to stop being on Twitter. They got to delete that motherfucker's account. Listen, I'm all for freedom of speech, but I think that President Trump is one person who probably has lost the ability to need that now, all right? Like, he's too old. He's got too much power. He's fucking senile. I don't know what the fuck's going on. He needs to just shut the fuck up and stop fucking playing our hand, showing our hand to everybody. That is the worst fucking way to do diplomacy. And it's even in the talks leading up to this MOU and them having their little few talks, it's evident. As soon as there's something, we go and fucking sit there and blast off at the mouth, and then the Iranians come out and say, nah, what the fuck, we didn't agree to that.
Yeah.
With the IAEA inspectors, JD Vance comes out to this whole fucking press conference about, oh, look at here, look, we got them. They've agreed to all these inspections and blah, blah, and then they come out and go, Ghalibaf, the prime minister of Iran, comes out and says, bitch, we didn't say that. Like, and yes, there is likely something lost in translation because none of us are meeting directly to talk. It's us speaking to the Pakistani delegation, and then the Pakistani delegation taking our message, translating it from English into Pakistani, then translating it from Pakistani into fucking whatever fucking version of Arabic the Iranians speak. I don't know off the top of my head, Persian, whatever. They fucking have to translate into that. Then they have to take their response, translate it from Persian to fucking Pakistani, then back to English. I'm sure there's some shit that's getting lost. And I'm also sure that since Pakistan has nuclear weapons and they want to be seen as like a fucking mediator here, they might have shown everybody two different fucking documents. They may have both agreed to something that's not actually true.
Yeah.
So we don't know. And this MOU, since the official part of it has been released, both sides have been disputing points of it ever since.
And you also have an unwilling third party that's not even willing to...
They're not even signed into the contract.
Yeah.
Well, you got multiple unwilling third parties. You got Lebanon.
That's true. Yeah.
Israel. You got fucking Gaza. You got all the fucking rest of the countries in the Middle East. You got the whole GCC countries or nations going around. Shit. There's a lot of moving parts to this MOU that are just not going to fucking work.
Yeah.
And if I was the Iranians, I would just be trying to get a nuke as fast as possible. That would literally be what I would be like, guys, it is whoever's in my nuclear bomb department, I'd be like, listen, motherfucker, it is your one sole mission for the next 60 days when this MOU gets signed is to get a fucking nuke. We're going to have a 60-day grace period. And honestly, that's why I think the Iranians even fucking agreed to it. Was because they're like, cool, this gives us a 60-day reprieve from getting the fuck bombed out of us. Oh, cool, now we can move equipment and do shit, build more of these underground tunnels, and now we can build a real nuclear bomb. That's what I would be doing.
That's probably what it's going to take for this to end. It's like, once Iran gets a bomb, it's like, all right, we're going to back off.
Yes, and then what's going to happen is Israel, we have said that Iran can't have a nuclear bomb. So when Iran has a nuclear bomb, and they go and bust out a test and say, and that was rumored. That was rumored that they were communicating to the Pakistanis that they had a nuclear weapon already, and that they were going to do, if this continued, if the U.S. kept fucking around with hitting their stuff and doing little bullshit after the MOU got signed, that they were going to do a demonstration, and it was going to be, hey, at this location, at these coordinates, there's going to be a 5-point something earthquake, and that's them doing their underground test.
At this point, it probably doesn't even have to be real. They could just make an AI generated video and just bluff.
I mean, they could make those. They could make a Lego video and those Lego videos were fire. I gotta give them that, man. Whoever the fuck was in their social media department over there in Iran, those dudes cooked, man, with those fucking Lego videos.
Yeah.
God, and then that's the other thing too, dude. The memetics of this warfare. All right, that's changed. That's also something that has changed the face of warfare. That's an aspect that a lot of people are discounting. The meme warfare that has taken place between Trump and the Iranians is off the chains. Some crazy shit has been said in those videos, and Trump has also said some crazy shit back to them, like wiping out their entire fucking civilization.
Yeah.
I think he said that like 3 or 4 fucking times.
Yeah.
And still continues to make those threats. So I don't know. This shit's off the chains. It's going to be wild. And I think that if Iran gets a nuke, Israel launches nukes, then Iran launches nukes, and then we all fucking somehow die. That's how I think this really does end. All right. I'm very pessimistic about this. And there's a lot of people I know that are very positive and they're thinking, oh, this is going to be great. No. This is going to suck ass for everybody. All right. So anyways, we will continue to talk about this subject because it is vast, wide ranging. And dude, literally, as everyone else knows, things happen like on the fucking fly. With these things, and we're gonna for sure do at least one episode a week now. We're probably gonna be doing more CUPs just because of the fact that so much shit's gonna happen, and I'm probably gonna want to talk about it. So now that we're back in the swing of things, that's where it's at. Like I said, you got anything else to add for this one? I think this is a good point to cut it off because we've been going for almost an hour, 47 minutes. So whatever, it's a good point to cut it off. We don't want to go too long. But anyways, if you want to hear the story of how we got to this point with Game Rage and all the podcasts and everything, go to the BFN show because we're going to have a special episode over there talking about that. And, check out all the other shit. All Gas, No Trash, music podcast.
I was going to say it would have been nice if we took timestamps, but that's something we didn't do in the episode. Now it's lost cause.
With going forward, I mean, we can do that again. But sorry, this episode ain't gonna have no fucking timestamps because we're a little rusty. All right, well, at least I am. But anyways, all right. So I think that does it for us. Thank you guys for listening, and we will see you on the next one.
Was the latest episode of the Central Unintelligence Podcast. Don't forget, subscribe and like on Instagram and TikTok at Game Rage Magazine. We're also on Twitter/X at Game Rage Mag. Also our website, www.GameRageMagazine.com.